In the Taoist world, there is a key to what is often referred to as immortality. However, in Taoist thought, sort of the philosophy behind what later became Taoism, this idea of immortality is, I would argue, better defined as living out the years that heaven gave you. To live your life is the goal of life by this framework. And so therefore, how do we live our longest life is sort of the big question in the Laozi and the Zhuangzi. The Zhuangzi being mostly prose, and Laozi, the Tao Te Ching, being poetry, gives way to different sort of minds to interpret different things in their own unique way. Because everyone is different, but everyone has the ability to live a life as long as they can, given their circumstance. One of these ways that is described in this wonderful, definitely less famous chapter of the outer chapters of the Zhuangzi, called Shanmu, or the mountain tree, or mountains and trees, mountain wood, hard to say, describes this one little instance that I think holds in it such a kernel of wisdom that I'd like to read it directly to you. So right now we're looking at the Burton Watson complete work of the Zhuangzi. It's my favorite translation into English. But here, this sort of standalone in Shanmu is, if a man, having lashed two hulls together, is crossing a river, and an empty boat happens along and bumps into him, no matter how hot-tempered the man may be, he will not get angry. But if there should be someone in the other boat, then he will shout out to haul this way or veer that. If his first shout is not heeded, he will shout again. And if that is not heard, he will shout a third time, this time with a torrent of curses following. In the first instance, he wasn't angry. Now in the second, he is. Earlier, he faced emptiness. Now he faces occupancy. If a man could succeed in making himself empty and, in that way, wander through the world, then who could do him harm? So this metaphor, this picture that's painted by Zhuangzi, is beautiful. We have two boats, one where a man is in a boat and another boat approaches. Should there be a boat that has someone in it approaching his boat, he will shout to get them to move. But if there's no one in the boat and it even bumps into his boat, he will not be angry. He'll simply see it as the way things are, what Zhuangzi might call the way of heaven, and not the way of man. And the decision of whether to be angry or not angry was contingent upon something being empty or something being occupied. So to be full is to be attached, to think things are yours or that you deserve something. This is very dangerous by many religious paradigms, to be tethered to things, and therefore to be able to harbor blame on this person or that is one way that we can become very angry very quickly. However, if we were to see every boat, every other person in our life as empty of these things, should someone do something that we don't like, we don't necessarily need to get angry at this person. We could simply acknowledge that that is them, that is their struggle. And just as with a boat, we can control what is in us, and we cannot control what happens in the seas. We can't control other boats either. That is up to other people, or sort of the way of whatever you'd call it, the natural makeup, the way of things, the way of heaven, as analogous to the waters. Something that has a rhyme and reason, but not one that we can perfectly understand. I want to ask you all to experiment with this idea. The next time that you get angry, to question yourself, is this anger derived from my attachments to what I think should have happened? Or is it that I should be angry and that it is beneficial to me to be angry in this moment? Each situation might call for a different outcome. But if we can see every person as a vessel, as with a boat, then that vessel can hold all sorts of things. However, if that vessel is empty, what is there that we could possibly be angry at? The next time someone bumps into you or says something that you think was uncalled for, you can control whether you are angry or not. Though it might feel, as your conditioned experience has told you, that you should be upset or you should be angry when someone is rude. Everyone has their own struggle. And it could be that that person is having a very bad day, and you are simply an external vessel that person, we could say wrongfully, decided to use as a sort of stress relief, a punching bag. But that's not to say that you need to dictate your entire world based on such a thing. Something very easy to say, very difficult to put into practice, but I would argue possible to put into practice. Here, I'm making a bowl, a ramen bowl, I would call it, and I've carved out one empty boat, a raft, on the water, and we don't know where it is, we don't know where it's going, or if it should encounter any other boats on its way there. And that is uncertain. And so too with this carving. This carving will not change. Once it's done, this boat will forever be on this seemingly endless sea that spans around the entire bowl. So I question you, what will you do with this precious boat that you're in? Where will it go? And should it encounter another boat, will that boat to you be empty or full? I hope you've enjoyed this little snippet of the Zhuangzi, which, as you might be able to tell from these videos so far, is one of my favorite books. And know that every little bit that I either share with you or read to you or carve an image of is part of a greater work surrounding it that tells even more wonderful things, and that this is all merely my interpretations. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I very much hope that the next time a boat bumps into you, you won't be angry. Have a wonderful day.